Greetings, everyone. Still see a few of you are getting settled in virtually, so let's give everyone a chance to get connected to their audio. Oh, it's great to see some familiar names and faces. I'm going to disable the wait room so folks can get in that may be joining us a little later. And it's really great to see some familiar names and faces in the audience today. Thank you so much for joining us. A few folks are still getting connected to audio. Let's give them a chance to get settled in virtually before we begin. Just want to check with you guys. Are you seeing the full screen? Is it a full screen that? Okay, I see Dwayne's nodding his head. Appreciate you, brother. Okay, that's great. Yeah, it looks like just a few others are having some trouble getting connected, but we will we'll get them up to speed once we get going here. Again, it's great to see everyone, and got a special guest with us here today. My colleague and friend, Mr. Doug Widow Jr. is here. He's going to be sharing some important information, and there may be some information here that that can be that's going to be pretty heavy. So we want to allow time to process a little, and Doug has a couple exercises he's going to do with you guys to make sure that everybody's okay today. So great to see everyone. Hey, Mike, I went ahead and muted you there. You can unmute if you need to, but I just hit your mic and muted you. So just letting you know. Again, my name is Steve Steiny. I'm one of the managers here at the American Indian Alaska Native Addiction Technology Transfer Center. Really appreciate some of you have been on some of these webinars over the years, and great to see you guys. And I've just got a few introductory slides I'm going to go through, and then I'm going to turn the floor over to Doug, and he's going to get us started off in a good way and talk a little bit about today's presentation. So again, great to see everyone. Just try and close anything else you got going on. Join us for the next 90 minutes or so, and we hope that today's webinar is helpful. This is a follow-up webinar. We met back, Doug, was it in February that we did the first one? I think it was February.
I think so.
Yeah. So this is part 2 of addressing grief and loss in Native American culture, and we're going to really Doug's going to touch on some things related to the horse today, and a couple of other things related to specifically to his tribal ways in addressing grief and loss. So really some powerful stuff here today. We're happy to have you here. And I'll just go through a few intro slides and we'll get started. So again, really great to see everyone. Let's see if I can get these slides to advance for me here. Yes, get this in presenter mode. There we go. So as most of you know, we are this event is brought to you by the American Indian Alaska Native Addiction Technology Transfer Center. We are part of a larger ATTC network. Let's see if I can get my own slides to advance. There we go. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm out of sync here, Doug, but I'll get it fixed when we get the main slide deck up. This event is brought to you by the National American Indian Alaska Native Addiction Technology Transfer Center. We're located at the University of Iowa, and I'm broadcasting to you live from the College of Public Health here on campus. Most of the students have vacated the campus, so I feel like I've got the whole place to myself here, Doug. It's pretty quiet up here. We are part of a larger we're part of a larger ATTC network made up of 10 regional centers, a national Hispanic and Latinx center, as well as a national HTC Network Coordinating Office located at the University of Missouri. Let's see if I can, for some reason my slides are out of sync here. This project is supported and funded by SAMHSA. The content is developed by the presenter. The opinions expressed in today's webinar do not necessarily reflect the views or policies of SAMHSA, HHS, or the National American Indian Alaska Native HTC. Following today's event, you will receive an email from us. This will have any slides, PDF versions of slides from today's broadcast, as well as a link to the recording of today's event and any other documents or attachments that we are going to share with you today. You'll also be able to request CEUs for today's event. We'll be offering 1.5 NADAC approved CEUs for today's event. So if that's something you're interested in and want to put that towards your credentials or your certification, you can request that at the time that you receive the follow-up email. And lastly, there'll be a link to a short questionnaire. Really would appreciate hearing back from you. I'll post that link to that questionnaire in the chat box today as well towards the end of the event. And you don't have to answer the questionnaire, but we'd really love to hear back from you. Your feedback is vital to the work that we do. And we've even added a couple of short answer questions to the questionnaire so that we can get feedback from you in your own words. So that questionnaire can't be linked to you in any way personally. It's completely confidential. If you have any concerns or questions about that, feel free to reach out to myself or Doug, and we're happy to talk to you about that. So I just wanted to put that out there. I know we're gathered here virtually today, and I think before we get started, we just wanted to take a few moments to acknowledge the land and pay respect to the indigenous nations whose homelands were forcibly taken and inhabited. This land acknowledgement was created by 3 former members of our team who are of Meskwaki and Winnebago tribal affiliation. Please take a few moments to read through this land acknowledgement. Thank you. Well, without further ado, I mentioned his name earlier. I want to again welcome our speaker today, Mr. Doug Widow Jr. I consider Doug a colleague and, more importantly, a friend. I'm going to let Doug share a little bit about his background. As he's doing that, I'm going to get the next slide deck up, and we'll get started. So, Doug, good to see you. Thanks so much for being here, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello, Mitaka. Greetings, relatives. Originally from Cheyenne River, a little place called Red Scalpel. It's an honor to grow up there. Go back now and then for ceremony and check on the place. I'm currently down here in Santee, Nebraska, working on my license. But majority of the stuff I use is culturally, and I use horses. Before coming here, I worked at Takini School, used the horses there. The kids really showed me how to become a a teacher. And so, and coming down here to the Dakota country, there's some relatives here that taught me to be who I am today. So with that, what I want to mention is that you may get triggered, some of you, as we're doing this, but it's an opportunity to address that trigger and maybe heal. And also I want to mention a little bit is that nobody would knows what you're going through, whatever that may be, whatever grief, loss, unless they've experienced it themselves. And so and in most cases, people would say, I know what you're going through, but in reality, they don't. And so, especially in Indian country, because we not only just have our own grief, but there's the intergenerational trauma grief there also. So, all right, Steve, you can go ahead and go into the first line. The objectives today is language. In our language, it's when my daughter was, I think she was third grade, she talked about an idiom. She was telling me what an idiom was. And our language is like that. You cannot really explain. You can try to come close, but language. So, and most of you probably know what that is, but for me, I didn't know what I was being taught by my daughter. And she's a senior now. The role, okay, and the role of the horses, what they play in our lives, and culture, find oneself. And I use stories, a lot of stories. And so after this, I think maybe this slide or the next slide, then we're going to do something different. This, and it's real important to identify who you are. And looking at what we call cover the Lakota grief and understanding the sacredness. Okay, you can go into the next one, Steve. Language gives you life. I think grew up with the language, so I was Lakota language is my first language, and so I was had the opportunity to grow up with that. And back then it wasn't cool to speak the language, and today, we're trying to bring it back and all that good stuff. But just to share a little bit of the good stuff that growing up with it, if somebody was talking in the language to me, like in the language they call it Okiya, if they were giving me wisdom, I sat there and took it. But if they're telling me in English, it's one in one ear and out the other. And the downside to that is, being called the name was Big Indian, broken English and stuff. So, but language does give you life, so I encourage you to learn your language. Okay, Steve. Gives you mind and spirit, a way to understand everything that's around you, how to behave, be wise, know what is good and know what is bad, and to know the difference. Language has art and beauty, and again, this way of teaching is not meant for everyone. And you may get triggered, but it's that time to make that choice to heal. Okay, Steve. All right. At this time, you can go ahead and put that music on, and I'm gonna have you try to get comfortable. But make sure your feet's flat on the floor, and we always try to see. It's a little loud there, Steve.
Yep, got you. Is that better?
A little bit more.
Yeah. There.
Okay. All right. So try to get in a comfortable position. Take a deep breath in. Close your eyes. Take another deep breath. And on this last one, I'd like for you to blow out more than the air that you took in. And at this time, I'd like for you to find your safe place, go to your safe place. Whether it's down by the creek, grandma's house, wherever your safe place is. And once you've gotten there, I'd like for you to take another deep breath. You're in a safe place. And at this time, we'll step into grandma's place. You can smell the cedar, the warmth of the stove. Just relax as we share this story. Long ago, our people, they lived amongst each other and took care of each other. The warriors marched out for each other, protected. And there was these two boys who were riding horse. And they were playing along the river. And they come to this part where that crossing was kind of steep. And the first boy was first rider. He was crossing, trying to go up. and he slipped off his horse and got killed. And that boy that got killed, he was a chief's son. And so they brought that boy, and that boy didn't get a chance to explain what happened. And the chief was so devastated by the loss of his son. He asked that they take him away and bring him back in that year. And the chief's family were grieving a difficult time. Then that year came, and they brought this boy. And this boy, he painted his face. And they brought him into the circle and they sat him down. And he started to sing his song, his death song. And the chief stopped him. He told the people, he said, "Mitaka, our relatives," he said, "My son passed. And he said, I still have a lot of love to give." And so he went to that boy and had him stand up. He took a cloth and wiped his face. And he grabbed that boy and told the people, he said, "I still have a lot of love to give, so I'm taking this boy as my own son." And he says, "I want you to treat him like he's my son." And at this time, I'm gonna count to three. You can open your eyes slow. Manji, Nupa, Yamni. And I'd like for you to take a look around, make sure you come back. And at this time, I usually ask some here and now questions. You could put them in the chat or just say them yourself. Or what's your favorite food? Mine is tandoori soup. And What's your favorite color? Mine is blue. Oh, and take a look around, make sure you're back. All right. It's like I said, take a look around. Like a lot of times we like going there. It was awesome. It was peaceful. And great to go there. There's some healing that took place. It's kind of a way to reset ourselves. So I like doing that with people I work for. I choose not to call them clients because I choose to call them relatives because that's what they are, working with them. And so I do that with them. So okay, Steve, go into the next one. All right. I came up with this because, like I said, you know, in the Washichi world, they have their grief stages, and Nako, not just the Lakota, but most natives, we have our own too. Uh, go ahead and change that. Okay, the first one is Tansagta. You know, I could still remember recent, you know, I had death in my family. And I could still hear my children's reaction. And it was like it was, you know, it's probably 7, 8 months ago. But it seemed like it was yesterday. And other times it's a phone call. Somebody calls and gives that message. So our first reaction is Sagta, not to go into that. And disbelief, you know. And so that's our first reaction. Okay, Steve, go into the next one. Touching it back, you know, mind goes backwards or disoriented. I remember when my father passed, I was driving home from the hospital and I was passing a vehicle going up this hill. It was a long gravel road coming out of Cherry Creek heading towards Tukini. And I was passing a pickup uphill, and I don't remember. So that next day, some relatives came and said, "Well, we're driving you today." So we go into that. Our mind isn't straight. You know, we're off balance. So, okay, Stu. Okay, a lot of times this would come, you know, Tanzeka, anger, wonder why, why do we have to go through this? Are angry at ourselves. We're angry at the person that left us. There's different ways of getting angry. Also, you can get angry at everybody, or you can turn it internally. Be angry at yourself. Okay, I can go into the next one. Here's one that when we get to this stage, it's really hard to come out of that, and what that's called is elaki chapi, blaming everyone, blaming ourselves.
Oh,
And at this time, how severe that can be. That's where families would, start to divide. Families. So trying to place that blame somewhere. But in our language, washigla. And what washigla means is we would, it's not only in the morning, but what we would do is we would put our time and energy against why our relatives passed away. So if it's through cirrhosis, we would stand against alcohol, pills, or suicide, depression. We would stand against that depression. Well, it's kind of like putting a stake in the ground and fighting against why they went. That's what washigla means. All right, Steve. And then there's Maha Hechitu, the soul, accepting when a loved one passed. We would go through 1 year of grief without them. So that's birthdays. Today is my son Charlie's his birthday today. Without his mother. And then there's Christmas, Easter, all those. We'll go through a year without them. Okay, next one, Steve. Napcha na oyate Okiya. I was doing this type of work, is really difficult for me to. After we got back from the funeral, everybody went home, and trying to get used to the person not being there. It was difficult, and but what helped me through is there's certain families here in Santee that was say, hey, we're having Unikage, having sweat. We'd like for you to come. So, a long time ago, how, how our people took care of each other. Like I remember when my aunt passed away, I was, I think I was like a year or two sober. And all the old timers, they were all still alive. And we got the news and was all in shock. And started to head on towards the evening. Didn't hear no car or anything. So all of a sudden, there was a knock at the door. And opened the door, and uncles were coming in with soup and rye bread, and chaka, coffee, cake, all the stuff you can eat, ojapi. The women there, they all sat in the kitchen. The men, they all sat in the, and just as everybody got there, before they started, there was the uncle. He stood up and he says, all in the language. He says, "Wana, Yoptok." There he started. He said, first thing he says is, he said, "Wana ukato na ukapi. Duecha lena chunktaho." He says, "Who's gonna carry these on after we're gone?" And he's right. After they all passed, nobody does those things anymore. What happened was they would come like that. They would bring food, prayer, encouragement. And back in the day, the women, they would cry. The men wouldn't, even at the gravesite. But you could see and feel the pain in the men. And today, the only thing I would change is, as for men, afraid to cry. So we would swallow our own grief to go help others. Because one day they're gonna come back, and so as a community, they would all come together to help that person in grief. Like a lot of times it's hard to clean the house, it's hard to do the dishes, clean the yard. They would come and they would help with that. It's a good feeling to be able to do that. Okay, Steve. Okay. Is that the end of the slide? Or? Okay. At this time, to work through the grief instead of turning to alcohol or drugs, you would take a look at it and we do have strengths and we also have weaknesses. And what values do you demonstrate? Do you live by? So like for me, for example, as like I've been sober for 35 years and probably Sundance that long. One of the values that I have is they say Wojciech is a yagage huntinus. Eknaka oyaki hishni. When you make a vow, that's for life. It's not just for when it's convenient. Today, I believe that that's what's missing in our society, in our people. Today, I don't have Facebook. And Facebook is, you know, probably good, you know, in some areas. But even that, you know, there's a place where you could fix your photo, but you know, you could paint your picture as somebody, you know, that you're not. You know? And so, you know, as you, like for me, like making that vow, you know, that was the first vow that I had when I picked up that chanupa. And that vow was always tell the truth and to give up my life for that chanupa. But even that, I had to learn, you know, put boundaries up and limitations too. And most of all, to be there for my children. And that's one of the values that that was given, you know, to practice that. So as you're going through that grief, you know, be able to you know, do what you say you're gonna do. Like my children, they hold me accountable. So, okay, with that, what's our next slide on? All right. Okay. Before we go on, I'll talk about the sacredness. First thing I want to talk about is a long time ago, when I was first starting this way, went to a ceremony, and the spirit came in. And he said, "Do we need more custody?" And
this video is still going. Let's see what it's about.
what was that?
Okay, so somebody had an open mic. I got it.
Okay. So anyway, we need more custody. You know, and that's probably, I'm gonna say 20 some, maybe 30 years ago. And it took me that long to understand why that was said. An example would be today, the word Wankan. you define that today, most people would say that is sacred or holy. And there's a reason why they came up with that. Is because if you make it sacred and holy, then if you interpret that, that means that you're bowing down to somebody. So today, as Native people, we're that discrimination, that racism, and all that good stuff. It's still out there today, but today we're doing it to ourselves. So if you're walking this way, going to Nippies and some dances, some people would say you're Wankan, sacred and holy. In reality, when you really take a look at that, if you bow down to these people that are holy or what is holy, then we could never get there from our shortcomings and stuff. And so, but in reality, what Wakam means, you break that word in half. Wa, is that's inside of all of us. It's in our blood, DNA. That is it can be good or it can be bad. It could take your life or it can give you life. And that all determines on your thinking and how you carry yourself. And so in the Lako Huichoch, they teach us to take care of ourselves. And because nobody else would. And along with that, education and sobriety, if you take a look at that, especially with that sobriety, you gain that, you earn that, and nobody can't take that sobriety from you unless you allow them to. And so that sacredness, it takes on a different meaning. And that sacredness, it lives inside of us. And if you're thinking negative, that's why in our way of life they say, it's better to help each other, love each other, than to be making problems with other people or yourself. And with that self, in the language they would say, like if people would come, and whether it's on Facebook or face to face, say she wogla copy to talk bad about somebody. But in reality, they tell us not to do that. And they'll even explain why. because subconsciously, if you're talking about somebody else, bad about somebody else, then that your subconsciously it thinks that you're talking about yourself. And so that's the reason why they tell us not to do that. And so by doing that, you're not allowing yourself to grow. And so it's the language is good. It's for me it's kind of hard to explain in English, but you know, at that point that really makes sense to me. And that's the reason why they say, you know, don't do that. It's just okay, Steve. All the chat stuff is making me hungry. All right, Jewish pie. Jewish pie concept simply brings back the old messages in our DNAs for a happy life that emphasizes the true need for family, understanding one's self-worth and value. Bring to their family will change the very nature and drawing them closer to loved ones. With that, you know, growing up with grandma and everybody helping each other, you know, that was happiness. But today we get that false impression. You know, today we live in a toxic world where everything is materialistic. And so we think that if we had more money, we'd be happy. In reality, we make that happiness within ourselves. Okay, going to the next one. Our cultural approach also, often moves us away from modern treatment modalities which focus on medical objectives that are rooted in illness, sickness, and dysfunction. We take the position that greatly majority of our people are not ill, sick, and dysfunction. We are generally believe, therefore, working with our relatives using the Jewish mind concept to help them stay sober. To talk a little bit about that, for example, for some of the Western, like the medical, it teaches that our body, our heart, and our mind is not connected. But we, as Native people, everything is connected in our body, and if we experienced some trauma as a young children, then what happens is with that wound, we would try to soothe that wound, and that's why we turn to alcohol or drugs. And then what happens there is our spirit and our body gets disconnected. Our nachi takes off. That's why that guided imagery is really important for us, because we as natives, we can take off and leave our body. And anyway, so what we do here is when they're ready, we will call, or we will teach them to call their spirit back. And you know, with your spirit not with you, then you'll like not remember certain things, or because our mind, it takes us there to protect ourselves from the trauma, whatever happened to us. And so that's what we teach here, is to take a look at that, you know. And it's not the trauma that what happened to us, it's what happened to us inside of us. So like an example, growing up, both my parents were in boarding school. So growing up, I got the know, the whippings from my dad and other stuff from my mom, the emotional. And so growing up, I thought that I wasn't wanted until I came here, started helping people. And, even though I was tired and there was a nippy that needed to happen, I felt that, okay, may have not been wanted, but I'm needed here. So I would go through. Today, I recognize that, so I took a look at it and healed from that. I think in the AA or in the Western think is name it, claim it, and let it go. So I was able to do some of those and move forward. The Jewish by concept is if our own family is not healthy, then what we would do is we would create that, and that's what we've created here as the groups. If the counselors are not available, you could count on each other, and that's what they're doing here. It's awesome how they've taken care of themselves. Okay, Steve, next one. Sunka Wankan. Sunka Wankan, the horses, they've been beside us for years. They know things about us that we don't even know ourselves, or we try to hide. The horses, I use the horses to connect with people. And the pain is what connects us all together. You can go to the next slide too. Until even that, a lot of the stories that I have is from my grandma. I have a lot of CDs, and there are stories orally of how the horses came. And I always tell my children about those stories. Not too far from here, I think it's like 40 miles from here in Santa Cruz. There's a place called Ash Falls. Took my children there, and they took off. They were checking out different things, and pretty soon the girls come running back and they says, "Hey, Dad, come look at this." And they showed the horse thousands of years ago where they had paws. So in their front leg, there's a thing called a chestnut. That is evident that the horses were here before and they had paws. They were shorter. They said they were leaving, but when they come back, they're going to be bigger, faster, and stronger. So the horses didn't. Well, they probably did, but through the stories, they were already here. So a lot of the stories about them coming with the Spaniards, but through our oral history, the horses were already here. Going to the next one. Before I get into that part, the horses, this Hunka long ago, kind of like today, everybody's fighting with everybody. Everybody's trying to outdo each other. Anyway, all the animals got together and said they were going to kill us all because all we were doing was fighting each other. And so the horse nation came together, and the buffalo and the plant nation. And the plant nation says, who are you to make this type of decision? So we're gonna help relatives. And today we still use our plants to help with illness. And the buffalo said, we will help our relatives with food. And so all the buffalo almost got wiped out. But in my home, Cheyenne River, there was a man by the name of Fred Dupreez, married to a native lady. He's a Frenchman. He was saving some of the calves. He started getting bigger. He started getting a herd. So a guy in Pierce, South Dakota, named Philip Scotty. He's the one that bought those buffalo. And that's how they made their way back. And the horses, they came. So we will help them. And there's even a song, honoring the horse. So it's a Sundat song that hardly anybody sings anymore. And it says, we are Okiya, ito kamang tahuyu, Sunka Wankan echila, wachi the horses, what they do is they come. Whatever you're feeling, they would absorb it. They will take it from you. And then after they take it from you, they'll go bathroom. And they'll give it back to Nchimaka. And so the horses, they came to help us like that. And there's 4 sides to them. That right shoulder is the infant side. And the right hind is the adolescent. And that's the side that they'll kick you on. And if you ever notice today, hardly anybody works on that right side. Because just like us, we have 2 brains. Left side is the linear side. And the right side is where the language comes from. And we don't try to make sense of things on the right side. So an example would be if you was to go up on a hill to pray, I would teach you to shut that left side off, open your right side of your brain. Today they try to teach the language from the left side of the brain. That's why it doesn't stick, or they can't produce fluent speakers today because of that. So whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. And that left hind is the adult, and that's the side that the horses, or we as adults, think we're clever, smart. Even the Chanupa, it says that Chanupa, that song, it says Oya Ognashna Oyagna Oyaki. Once in a while you try to fool me, but you can't. Everything is about the pipe. It's about the truth. Now, left shoulder is the elder side. And that side, most people would saddle, get on the horse. But we as natives, we get on from the right side. because a lot of times our infant and our adolescent stage wasn't a good life for us. All right, Steve, we can go on to the next one. Each person has a set of troubles, trials, tragedies, such as illness, injury, social, emotional challenge, divorce, death, just to name a few. Service towards others is the best way to heal. Help one another, watch over one another, comfort one another. And it's time to get reacquainted with Creator. So like that, as I was saying, as Native people, we had our own way of taking care of grief, trauma. Even that we come from people that were in war for over 500 years, so we know how to take care of our people that went to war. There are ceremonies for that, and so everybody came together as a community to help each other to heal, watch out for each other. And so one of the main things to all of that is to pray. That's the key to getting through. We may not get over what happened, but we could help get through those. Okay, Steve, going to the next one. Sacrifice is a higher level of service, giving up something to help someone else. That goes with that understanding, that sacredness. To give up, your time, energy. In our culture, a lot of people would use that term, Indian time. For me, I don't like that, because as Native people, we were never late, especially when we think something needed to be done. We're always on time. There's a word called "nake nula wa'u." I'm ready anytime, anywhere. I'd use that term more, and to give up something, to help someone else. Not only gives us a good feeling, but made somebody else's day. So our way of life is awesome, especially the horses. The horses, they know 4 days in advance when they're gonna help a certain person. And I truly believe that horses can read your mind. And that's the reason why they call them Sunka. Sacred. To have half of them are in the spirit world, the other part is here to help us. So I love using horses to help people. And right in the middle of between their ears, where that bridle goes, I would have the relatives touch that. And what happens is that horse will bow his head, not into submission, but he'll bow his head. Then he'll allow you to touch all 4 sides and to really take what's bothering you. what that horse will do is they'll take it and they would go not only go bathroom, but they will roll. And then they would, after they'll roll, they'll stand up, they'll shake, they'll go back to eating grass. All right. Thank you for listening. And before I open it up for a question, I want to do a real quick, like I said, I may have triggered you some way or triggered yourself. Remember, you're the one that's carrying the ammunition, not me. So close your eyes again. We'll do a quick one. Take a deep breath into your nose. Close your eyes. Sunka. So we come through the end of today. I ask that you bless my relatives, some of their loss, grief, pain. Give them health. I ask that you turn their key into good healing. In return, they could help others. Count to 3 and you can open your eyes. 1, 2, 3. All right, Steve will open it up for or any comments, questions.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone staying with us, and we want to open the floor now. Unmute or post something in the chat. Things, thoughts, feelings, comments. We've got a little time. Yeah, we got about 10 minutes before the conclusion, so we'd love to hear from you.
Somebody wake up, Mike.
Got any studs for sale?
Oh,
My stud died this past winter.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I got one.
Okay. Good need one.
All right. I'll have Steve give you my information.
Okay.
Talk about wiping on the tears. Okay. Wiping on the tears. For the Lakota people, what would happen is there's kind of there's like two different things that would usually happen. One is like releasing of the spirit, and then at the same time you're doing a wiping of the tears. And I'll talk a little bit about both. The wiping of the tears, you'll have some red material, water in the pipe, and during that time, whoever is there would be able to give them encouraging words to keep going. And then they would offer that pipe, they would load it and then they'll smoke it and drink some of that water because that water is life. And then there will be a certain song that they'll memorial song. They'll come with that cloth and they'll wipe your tears away. And that doesn't mean that you should be done, crying or whatever, because grief like that comes in waves, and it's not gonna just a year to make it go away. And so that's what happens with wiping of the tears, mostly in encouraging words. And that pipe is there because it says Dohan, like if you're going through those bad thoughts or blaming, you'll get your chanupa out to pray, and that will reset you to keep going. Anytime there's stuff like that come, that's why we load that pipe. And then that releasing the spirit, you would dig a little hole and you would put whatever, if you didn't get a chance to cut your hair, you would put wasna in there. And notes, whatever you need to put in there, you could put it in that ground and bury it and say a prayer, and you're releasing the spirit. Every day you will continue to talk to them, put food out for them as if they were still there, because they are. They could see us, hear us, but we can't see them. We can't hear them, but they're there. And they'll go to that place. I'll just say, we go to a place that's beautiful and awesome. It's heaven. So thank you for asking for that. And I'll put my phone number here too, in case anybody wants to. I do horse presentations too, so I had a website, but for some reason I couldn't get on it.
Yeah, Doug, I put your email in there too for Mike and anyone else that wants to reach out.
Okay.
Yeah, when you can't get onto your own website, there's something's happening. We still have a few minutes. Yeah, I wanted to read something that Catherine M. put in the chat. Doug, she said, in doing grief work for myself and helping others through it, the most difficult part seems to be allowing ourselves to feel the pain of loss.
See on that's we're always taught not to feel. And well, for me, I'll cry, or I'll feel it. And that, if you swallow it and hold it down, then it make you sick. And it's just not good. So we have to pay attention to our body, and to be able to give our body what it needs. And if it's crying, it's okay. So especially like if you can go help somebody else, you can feel their pain, before you even get there. And to feel it, and not push it down. So feel that pain. It will help you to be able to, not only feel better, because that's, along with that, what I was talking a little bit about, I only talked a little bit about half of it, but one of the other things is we don't eat properly or sleep, and so but if you feel it, if you cry, then you'll be able to sleep because you'll be real tired. The other thing is, for me, I that's how I got sober, is to going to Inipi. So I would go to Inipi, and that will tire me out too. So yeah, it's feel that pain, and because it does get better when you face it. I couldn't see who's all joined today, but
Yeah, Wakian was on for a little bit. He had to step off, but he joined us for a bit. And
okay.
yeah, a lot of familiar names and faces on today, Doug. We've got just a few more minutes before the bottom of the hour. We'd love to hear anyone if you want to unmute and jump in there with a comment or a thought. I'd love to hear from you. I can say this, Doug. Having worked with you this past year, you taught me a great deal, and I really appreciated today's session. Tending to your own spirit is one of the greatest gifts that I can do, not only for my relatives or the patients that I may be working with, but those that are closest to me. They benefit the most when I'm taking care of myself. And I know I worked a lot of years in the clinical setting, and 9 out of 10 patients that I would see would report some grief or loss that they'd either recently experienced or had experienced in the past, that they had not worked through it properly, and it really was the underlying issue. Their substance use was really symptom to some of those underlying issues, often related to grief and loss. So really touched my spirit today, Doug. I appreciate you, and I really felt connected to everyone on the call today. So thank you.
Well, all right.
We are nearing the bottom of the hour. Again, if you have questions or comments you want to send to Doug, you have his contact information, and we are going to get ready to sign off. I did post the questionnaire link if you have a few minutes to fill that out. Otherwise, we'll give you a second chance to do that when we reach out to you post-event. You can request CEUs at that time, and I'll talk with Doug about making some of these slides available if you are interested. We just ask that if you use those slides in some way, use them in the right way, and give credit where credit is due. So, Doug, do you want to close us out in a good way and sign off?
Yeah.
All right. Take care, everyone, and appreciate you for joining today.
Sunka wa kanwe ate no kickshop na tona hina stamina hipi na wichaki. Genchi. Omitaka ase. Oh, tuksha.
Oh.